Okay, I think we're ready to roll. This is the March 23rd, 2026 Planning Commission meeting in the Hanlon Commission Chambers in the Liberty Public Safety Facility at 1234 Lynn Avenue. And I will convene the meeting at this time and have the roll call.
Yes, sir. Commissioners LaSalle.
Here.
Laws.
Here.
Guymont.
Here.
Commissioner Henderson and Meinig are excused, and Vice Chair Dole is also excused, and Chair Espy.
Here. Are there any public comments that anybody would like to make that are not related to items on the agenda? Any general or public comments? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move on to the first item, or actually what we're going to do is we are going to have items A and B heard together, and then if we get to that point this evening, we will have them decided upon under two separate motions, but we will hear both items at the same time, have them presented at the same time, and we will deliberate accordingly on those two items. So we have public hearings on GLUA 250025, CU 254001, MAS 254001, Park 254001, 1367 Molalla Avenue. It's a master plan and general development plan approval, conditional use permit approval for drive-through for 2 drive-through uses and an adjustment to the maximum parking. Then we also have GLUA 250025, MAS 254002, GEO 254007, NROD 250012, 1367 Molalla Avenue, detailed development review, DDP for the construction of a new public road, Parcel C. And so I will stop there, and at this point, this is the time for the quasi-judicial land use hearing, and I will go ahead and read the script and all of the things that we need to do procedurally for the public hearing. Public hearings on land use applications are scheduled for tonight, and our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary or change those laws or codes. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. And the staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The hearing procedure that the Planning Commission will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code, and the hearing procedure steps are shown on the Planning Commission website. Public testimony will be called on the order that it was requested, and if you wish to testify in person, please fill out a speaker card available here, and they kind of look like this. They're over there on the back table. Make sure you fill one out so that we can call your name at the right time for you to testify. If you wish to testify virtually, you will be called either from a request to speak emailed to city staff at the appropriate website in advance of this meeting, or by raising your virtual or physical hand when I ask if there are others in the audience who would like to participate in the digital realm. For the public record, please begin all testimony by stating your name and city of residence. You don't necessarily have to give you your address unless you wish to have additional materials sent to you based on your testimony. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria, and if you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration this evening. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends to submit a PowerPoint presentation, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in that oral testimony will be placed in the record. Copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open, and if they are not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the initial hearing is closed. If the Planning Commission makes the decision in which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised before the Planning Commission in order to be considered by the City Commission, and in the event of further appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail and accompanied by statements of evidence allowing the city and all parties to respond, the issue will not be considered on appeal. In addition to participating orally or in writing and raising all issues during the Planning Commission proceeding, the filing of appeals must include the required fee. A city-organized neighborhood association may request a waiver of the appeal fee, subject to the requirements set forth in OCMC 1750-190C5 and 1750-290C. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So now we will open the public record for both of these items, both items A and B, which I aforementioned at the beginning of this hearing, and I will also ask if the planning commissioners have any potential conflicts or bias. If they've visited the site, they can just go over that at this point in time. At this point, do any of the commissioners have any conflicts or bias? Commissioner Laws?
I have no conflicts, no bias.
Okay, Commissioner LaSalle?
No conflict, no bias, ex parte. I've driven by the location countless times.
And Commissioner Carmot?
Same, no conflicts, bias, ex parte, but I drove by the site just on the way here. It's on my route to coming here.
Excellent. And I've been by the site numerous times, but I have no conflicts or bias. Without any further, I think we are ready for the staff's presentation.
You want to poll the audience to see if they have any concerns about these disclosures?
Oh, right. Does anybody have any concerns about the disclosures that the Planning Commission has made? Thanks, Gary. Okay, hearing none, we will have the staff presentation.
All right. Thank you, Chair Espy. As I mentioned, these are two land use applications bundled under the same GLUA number 2525. One is for a master plan, and one is for a detailed development plan that would normally be a type 2 review, but the applicant asked for a concurrent review, and so therefore it's in front of you this evening.
That's great. Okay.
As I mentioned, we have one presentation and two staff reports, and would, at the time of any motion, you'll have two motions for approval, but we'll combine this. And anything that's been added to the record, we're just for the sake of expediency, just adding it to both records. So the full master plan and DDP will have the same public comments that come in. So since the publishing of the staff report and the agenda last week, we've had a couple of public comments that have come in. Those have been forwarded to you, and there's hard copies at your desk. Those will be entered into the record. The Oregon Department of Transportation provided their analysis letter, and they found that they support the findings in the transportation analysis, and the key piece that they're concerned about is proportional contribution to their project at the intersection of 213 and Beaver Creek, which is a new right turn slip lane. And so at the detailed development plan for any of the parcels, the applicant will be assessed their proportional share to contribute to that project. And during site plan design reviews all around the area that are connected to the intersection of 213 and Beaver Creek, people people are subject to that proportional share. The next public comment was submitted by Gary Shepard, the attorney with Metro, and that letter is available on your dais as well. Kind of had three topics of comments. One was the location of the shared use path and concerns for attractive nuisance near their Newell Creek property. Two, they have a private easement on tax lot 500 to access their property. They just want to ensure that they'll have ability to gain access through their easement. And they had some comments about the stormwater outfall. The additional comment we received today was some comments related to the transportation analysis by Mike Ard, and I believe he's available online or in the audience, but did submit today an email with his public comments. We have staff emails in response from Josh Wheeler, our assistant city engineer, and from DKS and Associates, our transportation planners. So those are also available on your dais and will be entered into the record. And we'll be discussing the analysis response to these through the presentation. So the property is located at 1367 Molalla Avenue. You'll see to the left the parcels that are involved in this master plan application. The main parcels, let's see if you can see there we go. The main parcels are up here. What you see down, these three smaller parcels are required to connect the public road to Beaver Creek, and will be removed from the master plan once the detailed development plan is completed. Here is a zoning map showing the kind of myriad of zoning around this parcel. The parcel is on mixed-use corridor 2, which a lot like mixed-use corridor 1 allows a lot of varied uses of mixed-use and also standalone office, standalone retail, and standalone multifamily. What is different from mixed-use corridor 2 from mixed-use corridor 1 is there a minimum FAR or floor area ratio in mixed-use corridor 2, and the applicant has submitted findings showing they're well above the minimum FAR for this zone. In red, you'll see general commercial. That's where the Safeway development is. And as you move farther south, kind of where the Fred Meyer development, that's our general commercial zone. Drive-throughs are permitted uses that's kind of your general hilltop commercial, kind of more suburban-oriented development. Campus industrial, just farther south, is related more towards the Clackamas County campus and our associated campus industrial uses that are more employment-based. To the north, you'll see R3.5 and R10. Those are our residential zones. And at the very top of this map, you'll see Newell Creek Canyon parking lot. It's just a little bit outside of this map, but in the as part of the presentation, there'll be some conversations about the shared use path, and the goal is to connect up one day to the parking lot of Metro's Newell Creek Canyon access. And that's just outside of this map, right north of Beaver Lane and Otter Lane. So the summary of the master plan elements, it's the general development plan, are kind of on the slide, and I want to go through them, and you can kind of look at the map. You don't have to read all of my notes, but you can kind of look at the map while I talk. The applicant didn't have to come in for a master plan. This could have been done through site plan and design review to do a multi-parcel redevelopment. But the applicant came in for a number of reasons. One, they wanted a 20-year master plan to allow clarity and certainty in our development code. When you apply for a master plan, you're allowed to utilize the code that's in place at the time you apply over the many implementation phases of a development. So as the parcels A, B, and D are developed, they all are sharing the same development code as when the applicant submitted. So that allows flexibility in the master plan process. They're able to look at a full transportation analysis for the whole site build-out to see if there are any off-site impacts rather than coming in individually. We wanted to have a wholesale approach. This allowed us to kind of look at the reasonable worst-case scenario and what any off-site impacts would occur. Implementation would happen at the detailed development plan, but this master plan allows us to do that. We can look at the public road and utility locations and site grading as a general approach to see if it meets the intent of our code, and then it can be implemented through each detailed development plan. There's two things that the applicant does need planning commission review on, and that is conditional use review for drive-through facilities in the mixed-use corridor 2 zone. So Parcel A and Parcel D are proposing drive-through facilities, as well as parking maximum adjustments. So Parcel A and Parcel D are requesting approval to build parking spaces above the maximum ratio as allowed in our code. And those two things do require a planning commission review. Parcel B, which is a future apartment complex, is not requesting any conditional uses or any parking maximums. They plan on building to our development code requirements. One thing the master plan will also do is clarify process and timing. So one thing, the conditions of approval with a master plan provide for that 20-year time period and identify the date that the application was submitted as the allowable code over that 20-year implementation. Specific uses are not tied to the master plan approval. This is a lot like the previous Tumwater Village review the Planning Commission did about a year ago. It's really setting out a framework plan. And then when each detailed development plan comes in, they'll be reviewing to what's ever proposed. So, if the building slightly moves or it's just a slightly bit bigger, they'll need to show compliance with the detailed development plan requirements and any conditions in the master plan. So while the layouts are here to help you understand, it's really the detailed development plan. They'll be the final development review. Let's see. So they're not requesting any master plan adjustments to the development code at this time. That's something you can do through the master plan process, is you can request an adjustment to any of our development code in Title 16 or Title 17, and the Planning Commission can review that and provide conditions. So right now they're really looking at building the developments at each time based on based on the adopted code. Let's see. So a little confusing, but Parcel C is the new public road, and so that is what is also being reviewed this evening in your detailed development plan. So Parcel A looks at a multi-tenant building, Parcel D is the quick service restaurant, Parcel B would be proposed apartments, and Parcel C is the new public road. Let's see. Go to the next thing. So as I mentioned, the two requests in front of the Planning Commission this evening that are type 3 reviews and have a clear nexus are the conditional use for the drive-throughs and the parking maximum. And really the two questions I would pose to the Planning Commission as part of this is, has the applicant adequately demonstrated a need for an adjustment to the parking maximum standards on parcels A and D, and have any adverse effects been mitigated? And 2, has the applicant designed drive-through facilities on parcel A and D that are safe, contain adequate queue storage, and have any adverse effects mitigated? And I'll go through and kind of lay out both parcel A and D's requests. But when you're thinking about the conditions in the master plan and any questions you may have for the applicant or staff, that's the lens you should be looking at in regards to the parking maximum and conditional use. So the parking adjustment for Parcel A, what you see here, the applicant initially was working with staff on a specialty grocer on Parcel A. At that time, staff really understood that a specialty grocer probably had a direct reason to need a parking maximum. And because of the odd layout of that Parcel A and where the road comes in, there was a constrained area. What you see to the left is a no-build easement. Well, you can build a parking lot there. You cannot build any buildings. So having the building right up against Molalla Avenue was tricky. About January of this year, the proposed specialty grocer came back to the applicant, and that agreement didn't move forward. And so the applicant worked with staff on redesigning that building on Parcel A to be more of a spec multi-tenant building. The building would stay in the same general location, would front the new public road, and what was the back of house, kind of loading and unloading, was repurposed to queue storage for a drive-through. So kind of at the north of the property, at the edge of the building would be where the drive-through would be. So you would have the queue storage along the side, and then the drive-through would be in the rear. So with this analysis, the parking maximum request, really staff saw it as not necessarily tied to a use. There is no use tied to this building. It could be many different options. It's really spec at this time. But I really understood the constraints of that no-build area. So pushing a spec building against Molalla Avenue being long and skinny did not make as much sense. It did not make developable sense and would be awkward for both pedestrians and people parking trying to get access to the building. And so in this sense, I really see it as a mitigation for the constrained site. Let's see, I say staff used the approach as allowing additional parking in a no-build constrained area of the parcel, subject to enhanced landscaping to create a gateway to the site. And that's condition of approval 14 in the staff report. So rather looking at a use analysis and have they made their case, I'm really looking at it as a site planning, a kind of space analysis of if a building can't go at Molalla Avenue, what would you rather have additional parking to support whatever's there, but also make sure that there is a gateway of enhanced landscaping. If the Planning Commission denied the applicant's maximum parking adjustment, then there would just be a very large landscaping area most likely, and I don't know if that necessarily would serve the people visiting the site or also would be beyond what would be required as the gateway. So I'm available for any questions when we get to that, but that's what staff has really seen for the Parcel A be more of a site planning analysis rather than a parking analysis. The parking adjustment on Parcel D is a quick service restaurant. They've designed a drive-through which has very large queues, and one thing I like about it is this design. If you are going into the queue storage, you are not blocking people that are parking at the restaurant and walking in. Sometimes you'll see a drive-through design where the overflow queue storage goes into the customer parking, and then you're blocked as a customer trying to get in and out. In this way, they have their own egress drive-through to the north here, and there is a double stacking storage all the way through, and they would not be blocking this way for people who are parking and walking into the restaurant. As part of the analysis, both through the drive-through and the parking adjustment, really seen as a gateway look on Molalla Avenue. So the applicant initially showed some enhanced landscaping areas. You'll see kind of right along the intersection, along the new public road of Molalla Avenue. But really, I think as part of the conditional use, making sure that that car and queue storage is blocked from the pedestrian experience on Molalla Avenue. Staff has added some additional areas in red that will be added to that enhanced landscaping area. And those conditions that look at, it's based on square footage of enhanced area. And there's a certain amount of additional trees and shrubs that will be required in there, both in Parcel A and Parcel D. So the conditional use drive-through facility for Parcel A, as I mentioned, it nicely repurposed to have a double queue storage. These are both permitted uses, both whatever the drive-through will be, it'll be for a restaurant or other type of use that requires a drive-through that's permitted in the zone. The drive-throughs are located to the side and rear, and the buildings are not exclusively dedicated to drive-through. Drive-throughs are an ancillary use. This is not a small little drive-through coffee facility. This is a larger building that has drive-throughs as ancillary. You know, the Planning Commission can consider each development separately, and they can conduct a context-sensitive review and place reasonable conditions on their proposal. You know, if the Planning Commission was reviewing a drive-through down on our main street or in our downtown area, that's a much different context, and you might have a different analysis of the impact and mitigation. So really, when you're thinking about the conditional use review for these two facilities, I think the key thing is understand the context of where you are in the Hilltop area, what its impact would be both for pedestrians and vehicles as well inside this Hilltop area, and you can put reasonable conditions on this application. So the conditional use driveway facility for Parcel D, as I mentioned, it is well-designed. It has a large queue storage, and staff has identified that additional enhanced landscaping. The one thing I do want to add that we put a condition on, you know, anytime you have a popular quick serve restaurant, the first couple months of opening days sometimes can be more popular than what is a standard transportation analysis impact. And so as part of the DDP application, staff is requesting the applicant implement an on-site and off-site opening day pedestrian and vehicular circulation and safety plan to address some of that additional traffic congestion that might happen during the opening days of any restaurant. So that would be, scoped out with our transportation engineer about how do you do flaggers, what's the opening day approach to if there's any kind of additional transportation impacts while the restaurant is popular before it kind of goes back into background conditions. So as part of the master plan, we look at a utility analysis. We did a transportation analysis with the applicant to see what any offsite impacts may occur, and both the application submittal and our review by our transportation engineer identified that there were no additional offsite impacts beyond the two signals at Beaver Creek and Molalla Avenue that they would add to their leg of the intersection. Each detailed development plan will be paying for the systems development fee at the time of DDP application, as well as that proportional share for their contribution to the project at 213 and Beaver Creek. The shared use path, as you see on your right, is a bicycle and ped path that's been identified in our transportation system plan. And it really, when you at a transportation system plan level, we're really just connecting points A and B. So oftentimes you'll have a line on the map, but when you get to the detailed development plan or just a normal site plan design review, you look at the actual path of where you get from A to B. So the goal is we want to have a connection for pedestrian and bikes from Beaver Creek along the site, through the site, and connect up to that parking lot at Newell Creek Canyon. So how do we get there over time and ensure that our development applications can provide for that long-term build-out? The exact location can be amended on the site where it makes the most sense for the development, safety, grade, all those kind of things. Finally, there was a public comment related to stormwater from Metro, and I just want to reiterate that our stormwater design standards require stormwater to be released back within the basin that it's from, so we don't move water from one basin to another. But also the release of stormwater is done at pre-development rates. So if you hold water within a detention pond, you have the water quality, so it's being cleaned, but you're also doing the retention. So that clean water is then released back to the same basin at pre-development levels. So our assistant city engineer is here tonight, and you can ask him questions about our development code related to stormwater. So as I mentioned, the detailed development plan was for Parcel C, the public road. And that public road runs along the master plan site, but then also down along those additional parcels I spoke to you about. Now, these parcels right here are required to be in this application because that was an agreement they had with with those property owners that this road gets built, but it is not part of the master plan moving forward. So moving forward, it's kind of brought in to be reviewed, and then once the street is completed, those tax lots will be taken out of the master plan moving forward. So 2 items I want to review as part of the detailed development plan for the streets. There's a small section in our natural resource overlay district. There is a stream that's culverted, but the culvert opens right towards where the road connects to Beaver Creek, the new public road. And you kind of see it right here. If you look at my arrow doesn't show up. Oh, no. If you looked farther down to the bottom of the left-hand figure, oh, there it's working. Can you see it? Okay. Right down here, this is about Beaver Creek Road. So as the road comes in, it will not cover any of the existing open resource, but where it's culverted in the 50-foot buffer. So as part of that, the road will kind of nick a little bit of that 50-foot buffer, and the applicant is required to mitigate for that per our natural resource overlay district. They have a mitigation area they've identified. It actually is in the same location as the shared use path. So as that gets resolved, the way our natural resource overlay district code works is you can mitigate at the exact location if available, and in this is not able to mitigate because it kind of goes down a hill and there's no location to mitigate right at the resource. You can mitigate farther on site, or you can mitigate within the same basin. So there's a couple opportunities, and that's written in the condition. They could work with Metro, they could work with other parts of the Newell Creek Canyon area to work on their mitigation. But our mitigation in our natural resource overlay district is clear and objective. You have X feet of impact, you have Y square feet of mitigation, and even the trees and the bushes it's a math calculation. So if you look in the conditions of approval for the street, you'll see that they have per our development code, they have a math calculation, and they've also provided the findings, and they have a landscaping plan that meets our code that's in their submittal application packet. The other piece I want to identify is a geologic hazard overlay district. What you see in the district is both steep slopes and landslide deposits. We have a buffer around our landslide deposit, and that's that kind of orange color, as well as this is kind of the top of the slope right here. As part of our geologic hazard review for the shared use path, we were able to conditionally approve the shared use path in its location. So we did have conditions related to that, but the shared use path construction is a lot different than a street. It does not take a lot of excavation, whereas if you build a street, you'd have, feet of excavation. You only have very few amount of excavation for a shared use path. And so we felt that staff could conditionally approve it in that location to meet our geologic hazard overlay district. What I'll just describe in additional slides is it may not be the best location to meet our code for other aspects, but for geologic hazards questions, we have Josh Wheeler available for the conditions we had for the proposed shared use path in that area. So there, I wanted to briefly respond to Metro's 3 comments. And the shared use path has been reviewed as part of the DDP and can meet the can meet the requirements of the geohazard zone as conditioned. However, additional design work is still needed on the applicant's end to ensure compliance. Based on recent public comment, the city has reviewed the path locations against the master plan policies for consistency with the comprehensive plan and finds that there is an adequate nexus to require redesign on Parcel B. And after this, I'll go back to the map again. The Metro made comment of assuring access to their gate on tax lot 500, Mr. Younger's property. The Metro easement is a private easement that the city can't compel access to. The applicant can apply for a driveway access permit on Tax Lot 500 at any time during or after the construction process. So nothing in this approval prohibits Mr. Younger from requesting a driveway access permit to allow Metro to have access through his property. And finally, the stormwater outfall. The stormwater code regulates stormwater flow to remain within the basin, ensuring that it is released at pre-development rates. Staff conducted this analysis and established conditions reflecting this requirement. So I'm going to go back a little bit on that shared use path. The crux of the conversation that I think will happen either this week and if this meeting is continued is, do you allow the shared use path kind of in this lower area below where the Parcel B development will be, where the apartments would be? So some of the concern is it's not at grade with the apartments, so it's kind of a little bit out of sight, out of mind. Not a lot of eyes looking at the shared use path. And at this time, there's not a direct connection to the north. So people can walk on it, but at this time, they can't quite get to that connection up to Hilltop. So until the city is able to bridge that gap of an area to Hilltop, the path can't go any farther. Now, there is a large canyon just on the other side, and so there's not really access to the Newell Creek Canyon area of Metro in this location. To access this, you would have to make your way up to the parking lot to get access to the Metro site. There's really not topographic-wise a way for kind of a side trail to get down to the Newell Creek space. So staff has identified some revised conditions of approval. One relates to the master plan that really looks at the shared use path's safety in its location. While it can be technically built through a geologic hazards code, we as staff are recommending a revised condition of approval that requires the applicant to relocate that shared use path higher up and integrate it with the Parcel B redevelopment with the apartments. So it's integrated with the development. Eyes are kind of on who uses the path, and it can be seen. So I have those conditions. I won't read it, but I have those conditions on this screen. With that, the detailed development plan would be revised to remove the conditions related to the path on the detailed development plan's approval, with one condition remaining that says the applicant shall construct their portion of the TSP project within Parcel C as a public 7 to 10 foot path. So the road portion, as you come up from Beaver Creek Road, will have a sidewalk that is the shared use path. It's only when it leaves the right-of-way that they'll have to come back with on Parcel B, the apartment section. One final revision I just want to highlight. I was speaking to the applicant about Parcel D, the quick serve restaurant. And they brought it up and I didn't realize it. I'm glad they did. There are some power lines right at Molalla Avenue, and the condition as written, some of those trees may conflict with power line requirements. And so we added in an extra sentence that said, it's not changing the number of trees, but if those trees are planted near power line easements, then the final height can go down to the height that you could put under, like a street tree height under a power line. So we had, I think it was either 35 or 45 feet final height. In those areas, it would probably be like 25 feet, which is allowed under power line easement. So it's just an extra technical sentence acknowledging that in that gateway area, there may not be ways to put some full trees where there are power lines. So staff recommends approval of both applications with the revised conditions outlined in the presentation. And you have many options this evening. I think the applicant will be requesting continuance, so we don't have to go through these this evening. But I'm available for staff questions, and I know Josh Wheeler is available for any engineering questions you may have related to stormwater and the shared use path and transportation.
Okay, are there any questions that the commissioners have of staff regarding this, regarding her presentation? Sorry. Yeah.
I do.
Commissioner LaSalle.
I was reading the staff report for the master plan, and on page 25, it It says the application was deemed complete on December 18th, 2025.
That's correct.
And the 120-day decision date for this application is April 7th, 2026, with an extended application to May 17th. Why are we just seeing this now? I mean, it seems it's putting everything on a pretty short timeline.
So the applicant turned in the application in June and then was incomplete and worked through the summer and fall to complete the application. And right around January, as I mentioned, their tenant in Parcel A kind of fell through. And so they actually extended 30 more days to staff, went back, reworked on Parcel A redesign. And now we are here with the hearing.
Well, a short time like this makes me a little nervous, because if there is an appeal and it goes to the city commission, the same 120-day timeline with the extension would still
The
apply.
extension's to May 17th, and we are working with the applicant to ensure that we have adequate time for any appeals.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm sure that this is a standard statement, but it makes me a little nervous. In the staff report, it states, quote, the statement, quote, subject to change bothers me. An example to subject to change is the Cove, which the present plans for the Cove don't come anywhere close to its original applications. So
Can you,
if we make a decision here tonight, it's still subject to change.
well, can you specify what is subject to change?
In the staff recommendations, I'll quote,
What page are you on, Bob?
oh gosh, I didn't put the page down, but it says staff recommends conditional approval, and there is a statement, the buildings and their locations on the 3 development parcels are subject to change unless otherwise specified by conditions in this application.
Yeah, that's my goal with that would be that the final design of the buildings may slightly shift, or maybe it gets a couple thousand feet bigger, or maybe a little bit smaller. What I don't want to have is, this is a general framework layout, but the detailed development plan for those 3 parcels haven't come in. And so when I say subject to change, they still need to meet the conditions of approval. So any conditions you put on we put on the transportation, any conditions that are put on utilities, that are put on the conditional use review, or the parking maximum adjustment, they also have to meet that. And what I want to make sure is, there's always a gap between when you do some initial layout and then you actually get to the design. What I don't want to have is they proposed 5,013 square feet and now it's 6,000 square feet, and they can meet all the conditional approvals and they've looked at the transportation impact and everything's fine. I want to be very clear that that does not require you to come back to the Planning Commission, because this is a general approach, not a pre-review of each of the development parcels.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see here. I've noticed in Parcel A, there's a whole bunch of compact parking spaces. Is that a requirement for so many compact spaces?
No, actually, in this situation, because of CFEC, the previous CFEC, and they're within, a quarter mile of a 15-minute service, they don't have any minimum parking standards. So they could, if they wanted to, they could do any ratio of standard to compact.
Okay, so there's no requirement.
Yeah, we do have, some, if this was a required, but because it's not required, they could find their own ratio.
Okay. You talked about the landslide area there in the back.
Mm-hmm.
How close is that to the new road?
And that's where I might bring our assistant city engineer, Josh Wheeler, up. And let me know if there's any slide you want me to, I might go to this one.
What's the question, Commissioner LaSalle?
How close is the new road to that landslide area on the back side there?
I don't have an exact distance. That question is best answered by the applicant after their presentation.
I'm just a little concerned about the possibilities of a landslide.
It's been reviewed by submitted by their consultant, reviewed by our consultant, and we've provided conditions of approval based on our review of that. So it has been reviewed and generally approved in that location with any adjustments based on the conditions.
Okay, well, I'm satisfied that it has been reviewed, so let's see here. The shared use path, if I understood it correctly, is that requiring the applicant to pave that path and light it?
Yeah, that is currently in the staff report that you see in front of you is requiring that path in the existing location for, down below to be a paved bike ped shared use path. And so our recommendation is to move it up and integrate it in with Parcel B, but it would still be a paved shared use path.
Okay, and let's see, one more question.
Yeah. And sure. So it's in the transmission system plan, so even if they came in through a site plan design review, they would need to build it. It's not necessarily, it's not, the master plan doesn't trigger it. What we're looking at as part of the master plan is it in the right location based on the proposal?
And my last question maybe need to be answered by the applicant, but what mitigation is proposed to prevent dust and mud from being carried on to Beaver Creek Road and Molalla Avenue, where, every time you get a really big construction project, it seems like the adjoining streets are an absolute terrible mess.
Yeah, so I can answer that. The Chapter 1747 of the Oregon City Municipal Code requires all developments to meet our erosion control standards, which deals with dust control, which deals with dirt sliding out into the road. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. We had a project recently on Warner Parrott that had some erosion being done incorrectly. And we drove by and saw it, we addressed it, we placed a stop work order on it until they resolved it. So there are permits associated with that, as well as design features that staff addresses and regularly inspects.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you for your responses.
Commissioner Laws.
What in the relationship does this project have to do with the city projects right now on Molalla Avenue? Will the timing work out well with the projects currently with the city on Molalla Avenue in terms of timing? Because obviously there's a lot of clearance, obviously the water line, sewage line, and then just overall paving of actually Molalla Avenue.
Yeah, their timeline is not known at this time. The applicant will have to tell you what their intention of construction is. But I can just generally tell the Planning Commission in general, there are several projects in development and in the city projects and budgeting process that are going to make some things quite congested in the next couple of years. And we're trying to do everything we can to do some public outreach about that. I won't get into those now, but be on the lookout on social media and other things. There are going to be some conflicting things with a lot of construction going on.
The only concern too I have is police enforcement, just because, just as a normal resident, I've had like 3 times where I've had 2, just with the road construction. Mike. Oh, sorry, thank you. It's been highly aggressive in terms of drivers, like where there's been almost like I've had 2 vehicles personally slam on their brakes, where luckily I have a vehicle that locks its brakes where there's been highly aggressive drivers, almost criminal. And I really appreciate our police officers, out there. So I'm hoping there can be more patrolling, especially with all this road construction, because when the city was doing their work, it seemed like there were more aggressive drivers. So I'm hoping that there can be more implementation to support our police officers right now with all this going on.
Yeah, I definitely recommend having a conversation with the police department. When we pave Molalla Avenue, I somewhat anticipate speeds are going to increase. They're a little slower because of some of the rough pavement now. I have a feeling it's going to get a little fast, and I can't speak for the police department on what resources they have for enforcement.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about the design of the road. That intersection there between Beaver Creek and Molalla is already kind of interesting with that bypass that goes, I think it's an Exxon gas station that's kind of chopped off. And now we're chopping it off again with another bypass road. It seems a little strange that it would connect through like it does there, as opposed to maybe just being a stub out across from the Safeway parking lot.
So that's intentional. A number of years ago, there was a plan that was adopted as part of the TSP called the Beaver Creek Access Plan. And that access plan tried to limit some of the access on Beaver Creek to reduce conflicts. And at the same time, it intended to someday, don't know when that day is, get rid of Beaver Creek Way and not let that go through anymore. And this road is the alternative to Beaver Creek Way. So if this were to be built, I would somewhat assume that there's going to be talk at the city commission level and at the public works director level of, now that that's in, do we go forward with a capital project to cut off Beaver Creek Way? But this was what we were waiting for that to potentially be implemented.
Got it. Okay, thanks. There was a note about the street trees and the height with the power lines. I want to say I read this somewhere. Don't remember if it was in comprehensive plan or something like that, but there's goals of undergrounding our power. Could we require the power to be undergrounded for that frontage and then allow us to plant the 45-foot beautiful trees instead of requiring them to fit under the power lines that are there?
Sure, and this is for the on-site property, not the street trees. This would be for the quick serve restaurant.
Yeah, the enhanced.
Right, it's not the
landscape.
street trees. Those are still being planted, but this
Okay.
would be on their private property, but it's still real close.
Yeah,
So it-
to alleviate the concerns,
yeah.
could the power lines be undergrounded, or could that be required as part of the conditions?
So the city code requires existing overhead lines to be undergrounded when practical and feasible. And practical and feasible generally means if it's not a high transmission line and it's just a basic local line, then we can get them under, which we do quite often. The lines along Molalla are high transmission lines, and so it's not in everyone's best interest to get those under because of other reasons dealing with the communications and the electrical, et cetera. But all the new lines that they will be putting in on the new road within their site will all be underground.
Okay, I didn't realize they were higher power lines.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility as part of this to have them work with Metro to extend that mixed use path just to get it to the nature park, Metro's nature park? Since Metro owns that land, could that be part of the approval? Otherwise, we kind of have this weird, useless, as you guys mentioned, dead end mixed use path that potentially is down a slope that nobody will see or use.
That would be more of a question for the applicant.
Okay.
But I can tell you, the Public Works Department would be open to working with the applicant, Metro, or the private property owner. It could go through a private property as well. It's about a 100-foot section to finish it off. And we would definitely be open to partner or work with anyone.
Fantastic.
Yep.
One final question, if I may.
Oh, absolutely.
There was the no build section of Plot A, I think it was.
Yeah, let me go towards it. There we go.
You mentioned you can't build a thing, building, but you could put parking there, but we also want enhanced landscaping. What about a park for the apartments that are there or something like that as part of the enhanced landscaping instead of parking.
Yeah, that was some of the conversation we had. I think because it's right at Molalla Avenue, it's too far away from the apartments, and they actually do have a little dog area as
Okay.
part of theirs. And they have their own open space between their 3 buildings, so they'll have their required open spaces when they do their detailed development plan. I think the larger thing is it's a private open space that would be like an acre, like a half acre right at Molalla Avenue. So to me, that whole area is almost too big for landscaping because people don't quite know what to do with it. And it's private space, so it's not a public open space. So
Yeah.
then that's really an attractive nuisance at some point. So to me, putting the energy into a really nice designed gateway landscaping and allowing that additional area to be used for parking, to me, I think makes sense for the city's needs to have a better pedestrian experience along Molalla Avenue, and then to acknowledge that, the other area could be used for parking.
Got it. And then one more question, maybe two. So the 2 drive-throughs appear to have a flow that kind of puts vehicles after they've received their items immediately into a parking lot where pedestrians are going to be walking to access the stores. I know I've experienced this at various fast food restaurants, and it kind of sucks when you're a pedestrian because people are too busy trying to eat their food or make sure their order is correct to be paying attention to me walking to the store. Is there a way to address that as part of this design? Because like you can see there on that example, the entire parking lot is basically cut off by the people exiting the drive-through after immediately getting their orders. And on the other one, it's similar where it goes behind.
There you go.
That one might not be so bad if you just reverse it and had them exit onto the road instead of the parking lot. But for the other one, it's you got that problem of people will get their stuff and then try and run
Sure.
people over.
On a transportation analysis, it wasn't brought up by our transportation engineer or engineering department, so I'll pass it over. It generally will look, if that is a safety concern about that, you can ask that to the applicant, but
Okay.
industry standards, it wasn't brought up as an industry standard concern. on the
Got it.
layout.
Yeah, thank you.
One more.
Okay, quick.
Real quickly, does that property abut Wendy's?
To the north,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, that is the Wendy's.
Oh, okay,
Right.
thanks.
Okay, I just want to make sure that since we have a new multimodal transportation system plan, I will probably make sure that, or I will try to hold the city's feet to the fire on making sure that those multimodal aspects are well implemented. So my line of questioning is really along, will there be any bike and pedestrian ways, any improvements along Beaver Creek Road or any of the perimeter street systems around this development at all?
So are you asking about off-site improvements?
Yep.
So there'll be improvements to the frontages on Beaver Creek and
Yeah.
Molalla Avenue.
Right.
No, that this project did not trigger off-site improvements.
Okay. And then I noticed that on the roadway, it looks like there is going to just be a pathway that is on the east side of the roadway and not both sides, right?
Yeah, and that is really trying to proportionally put a new city road all
Right.
the way through the site.
So then I also noticed that we're putting in trees that are also on the east side. Normally, planning practices, we usually have trees. We have the pathway and then trees and then the roadway to create a little bit more element of safety, mitigate maybe some of the sound, et cetera. So was there a reason to have the trees on that side of the sidewalk instead of the other?
Sure. I know the sidewalk design was revised over time to try to fit a whole street in with this geometry. So I'm going to pass that over to Josh Wheeler, our assistant city engineer.
Yeah, so the shared use path on the east side of the portion of the road that goes north-south, it needed to be a 10-foot wide for bicycle and pedestrian combo purposes, which did not lend itself to have a landscape strip in between, the normal 5 and 5 foot landscaping, 5 foot sidewalk. In addition, they needed their tree requirements, and there's a natural resource overlay right next to it.
Okay.
And so by putting the trees in the natural resource area or in their buffer
Root zone.
is a lot more reasonable than a hard surface.
Okay, that's reasonable. All right, let's see. So I've got a couple of other questions about the stormwater management. If there, I mean, I know that there isn't any nexus for this, but I would like to encourage maybe some kind of a design, stormwater design that integrates a little bit more with the landscape and you know, providing landscaping to enhance that area so that we're not just looking at a hole in the ground next to the roadway. I mean, I just really have an aversion to giving that to the community, you know, in exchange for having this master plan happening. And I know that I'm going to get the finger wag for not having a nexus for that requirement, but policy-wise, if we don't have things like that in our engineering requirements, we should probably take a look at that and maybe, you know, I know this is a soapbox thing, but I think that we really should start exploring those kinds of things that have, if we're going to have these big, gigantic stormwater facilities, they should really be designed to integrate with both the development and the natural features of that area. And then,
if I could,
go ahead, yeah.
SB, I would recommend a meeting with potentially myself sometime if you have time, so we can go over those stormwater
Absolutely.
standards, so
Yeah.
I can understand that comment better.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, that's such a general comment that I make because I see a lot of detention ponds that kind of look that way. And I know that there are site constraints and you know, need to put enough parcels on the lot and all that other good stuff. I understand that, but at some point there needs to be an effort to try to integrate some of that, but okay. And then my other favorite topic is light trespass. And I know that that's also a design review kind of topic, but I would encourage making sure that we have, you know, subdued lighting both on the public pedestrian walkways, first, you know, making sure that they have adequate lighting, but then not, you know, because like with the new LED lighting, that can be extremely harsh for light trespass. And then another part, lighting on buildings, making sure that the lights are downward cast and not pointing into neighboring properties or other parts of the development. Finally, signage, making sure that, you know, a lot of times these developments, especially fast food, and I don't want to pick on any kind of particular fast food, but some of the signage, it can be so bright it can be seen from space. And I really think that you can still get your message across and attract your clientele without having to have super bright signage. And we see a few examples of that in Oregon City that I won't mention.
Sure.
But yeah.
I'll kind of take a little bit. The
Yep.
shared use path is pedestrian level lighting, so it will be low lighting.
Yep.
We do have a foot candle, a 0.5 foot candles for anything off-site. When we do a photometric plan, and each of these parcels will be their own site. And then we do have a cutoff requirement that lights can't shine up.
Right.
So we'll make sure that those are all conditioned. I mean, those are all standard DDP conditions. And for signs, yeah, I mean, let's just encourage the applicant to make sure that their signs are not super bright. But I don't know if we have necessarily those aren't necessarily in our lighting.
Well, I mean, yeah, the signage components can usually have an LED component in the back, and then if it's not opaque enough to have that shine through, it shines through very brightly.
Yeah.
And in order, you could either, you know, kind of dim down the lighting if you can, if you have control with that in your sign code, or if you can, change the design of the sign to have maybe a halo lit sign instead of, you know, so you have, you know, metal letters or something like that with the halo in the back so that it shows the lettering but doesn't, you know.
Sure.
You know,
And that can have the
have
applicant.
the super bright
The applicant
red
can
or
respond to that.
red and yellow lighting. Yeah. Sorry, but
I'll just add a quick comment.
Yeah.
Woodbridge Park in Hillsborough has some really cool street lights on the paths that
I think-
are dim, but they have like motion sensors. So as you walk, they brighten up and then they dim down behind you, which helps keep the like natural area nice. It'd be really
Yeah.
cool to have something like that since it's bordering a nature area. I know that's not necessarily under our purview, but
Yeah, I can tell you, and something you might want to comment at another venue, is that a few years ago, we adopted street standards, or the city commission adopted street standards, and within those, we have the pedestrian path lighting standards in there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, if that's something that you feel needs to be improved, feel free to bring that to the Public Works Director, and we can go through the process of looking at something different.
Okay, and then finally, just to finish up, I'm looking forward to hearing the rationale from the applicant to increase the number of parking spaces for the site, because that didn't come through clearly in the submittal, and maybe I just got tired and couldn't read it, but, and then also, the other one was to see if we were to make sure that the queuing road for the restaurant is safe and all that. And so for me, I mean, I don't really feel like I'm qualified to determine whether or not that's safe. So I'm going to defer to the traffic engineer, city engineer, for any input on safety concerns, but I will be interested in making sure that it's well landscaped. And you did address that in your presentation about that, but I just want to see, maybe some more three-dimensional, more of a three-dimensional view of that further down the road. All right. And with that, I think we're ready for the applicant's testimony. Is there no more questions? Okay.
Thanks. Oh, okay, thank you. It's a good mic. Good evening. For the record, my name is Greg Hathaway. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hathaway Larson. My offices are at 1125 Northwest Cooch Street in Portland, 97209. I represent the applicant Cypress Equities. And with me this evening is Kirk Williams, who's the managing director for Cypress. They're located in Dallas, so Kirk flew here today from Dallas to be with us this evening. Also with us tonight is Scott Franklin, who is our project engineer, who really was the mastermind behind putting this master plan together. So Scott's here to represent us with regards to that. I'd just like to comment at the beginning that I thought Christina did a really good job of outlining the plans, and especially the slides that were used. I think what's really important here is that the Planning Commission understand the significance of this project, and frankly, the economic benefit that this project will have for the city of Oregon City. But the applicant still has to meet all the requirements to be able to master plan and develop the site. I think Cypress has done a really good job of trying to do everything it can to comply with all the requirements and to make all the necessary improvements to make sure that any impacts that is created by the development are being properly mitigated. I will say that for the most part, the applicant agrees with the staff recommended conditions of approval. But there are conditions related to the shared path where we have concerns. And really question whether the city has the authority to require Cypress to make some of the improvements that are being recommended for the shared path, which is certainly in the TSP and is certainly located on this property. But the city staff is asking the applicant to bear the cost of making improvements to this entire shared path, where perhaps they only have a small proportionate impact on the path that we're talking about. So we were prepared tonight to talk about that because, again, from Cypress's perspective, if you look at the entire staff report, we agree with the recommended conditions of approval, but we are concerned about conditions related to this shared path. But then tonight, we got surprised by, and I don't think Christina intended to surprise us with this because we learned last night late, I think about 8 o'clock last night, that Metro had concerns about the location of the shared path. So pushing aside for the second, just whether or not Cypress has concerns about the conditions of making certain improvements to the path, we learned for the first time this evening that staff is now recommending to relocate that shared path on the site. And we believe that that's the result of the Metro letter that Mr. Shepherd drafted for Metro, on behalf of Metro, concerned about where the proposed shared path was located on the site plan. And that's the location that both Cypress and the staff had agreed to. But once we learned of that new condition, and Christina did a good job of describing what that new condition is, and I believe that you have that condition in front of you. But I spoke with Mr. Franklin and Mr. Williams about this new condition, and the problem is that it could significantly impact the entire design of the project. And so we're not prepared tonight to make a presentation about what we had proposed to you, because this condition, which we've just learned of, could in fact change and alter the design of the project. And so we need time to evaluate that condition, to determine whether or not it's something we can even do, and still leave open the question as to whether or not the city really even has the authority to require some of these improvements. So with that, we would like to request a 2-week extension to speak with Mr. Shepherd about the Metro's concerns, as well as talk to staff about this new proposed condition, which relocates the shared path to a different place on the property than what we had expected. I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks, we can deal with the city's authority question that we have about the shared path in general. And then also, if we're going to have a shared path, where it's going to be located. But I also appreciate Commissioner LaSalle's comment about time. And we already represented to Christina at the beginning that we understand these tight time constraints. And so Cypress is going to do everything within our power to make sure that we move it forward. We're not going to delay. We're going to try to be as efficient as we can to make sure that we meet these timelines, because we understand how important they are to the city. But it's also important to Cypress, because Cypress wants to get building. And so we need to do everything within our power to get a final decision from the city. So with that, we would like to request a 2-week extension. Hopefully we come back in 2 weeks. We can answer a lot of the questions that you might have about the project then, and hopefully be able to represent to you some resolution of the shared path issue. So with that, we would specifically request that, and then defer any presentation until 2 weeks from now.
Very good. Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I would like to I don't want to entertain a motion at this point. I would like to.
We do have public comment.
Have public testimony. And
so we'd like
and I
to
think
make
I'd
sure
like to do
everybody who
that
came this evening is online can
Absolutely.
make public comment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Questions of the applicant from the commission? Thank you. Yeah.
I just had a couple questions. I was curious if there was, so it sounded like there was a tenant in mind for the Parcel A, but they pulled out, so now it's a spec building. Is there a tenant in mind for the quick serve restaurant that you are able to share, just to be taken into consideration as part of this, or?
You need to come up.
And I appreciate you flying in from Dallas.
No problem. I love coming up to Portland, so thank you, Trace. The answer to your question is yes and no.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Right.
But they do want you to eat more chicken, so how about that?
Okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All good? Good. Okay, so without any further, I have, Commissioner LaSalle,
The applicant requested a
a continuance.
continuance 2 weeks from now. How does that look on our schedule?
We do have quite the busy agenda for 2 weeks from now, but to make sure that we are being cognizant of the timing, we can make it work.
Yeah, and I think we can talk a little bit more about that when we are at the doorstep of making the motion for that continuance, if that's okay with you guys. Okay, I have 3 speaker slips this evening. And is there anybody else that is interested in speaking to this item this evening? Okay, Joyce Gifford. Microphone?
Little red. There you go.
No, it's green. Now it's on. Okay. My name is Joyce Gifford. I live in Oregon City. In fact, I live right at the end of that shared use path where it would come out onto Hilltop Avenue. Okay. So there were a lot of things discussed tonight about that path, and actually there are three of us that are going to, talk about. When I first heard about this path coming in, I thought, well, great, I can just jump on that path. I can walk there along the edge of the canyon, get out to Beaver Creek Road, cross a couple parking lots, and I can get to the post office without ever walking on Molalla Avenue. That would be really wonderful. But living in that neighborhood, I also see the other people that use and walk our streets in the neighborhood and the canyon dwellers that come down. I thought that would be really convenient also for them. And then I think about lighting, and I think about the house that's right there at the end of Hilltop Avenue, and how outside their bedroom window, they're going to have a lighted pathway. And that is not going to be convenient for them. The other thing is that shared use path that comes out onto Hilltop Avenue, that whole neighborhood, we have no sidewalks. We have nice wide streets. We have a lot of neighbors. We all park our cars in the streets, but there are no sidewalks. And so if you're wanting safe paths to get to places, what are they going to do to our neighborhood? Are they going to require sidewalks in my neighborhood next? Taking up part of my front yard to put in sidewalks? It just didn't seem like the whole thing was well thought out. And if they want connectivity, I have asked and been told by the city no, but when I walk down by Newell Creek Canyon and I walk at the end of Gales Lane, I would really love to walk into the city park that's called the cemetery and be able to just walk through the cemetery there. But there is no gate, there's no fence there for me to have access from Newell Creek Canyon Park to another city park. Okay, but I understand the concerns because of misuse of some of those walkways. So I was hoping that 3 minutes would start so I knew how long I had to talk.
You got about a minute left.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to know, and now when they talk about moving that pathway even further up the hill, how close to those houses is it going to be getting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. William Gifford.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. I wanted to say up front that I'm not really opposed to the apartments coming in there. I think that the city needs the housing, and there's not too much that they can do about the limited parking, but the state has different idea about parking. I understand that. But I do have a concern about that path. That path is the bugaboo of this whole plan right now. Well, the road is going to be even more significant, but that path, I don't know that it's been mentioned, that the end of that proposed path on the north side where that comes to Hilltop Avenue, there is a sewage pump. There's a pump station right at that intersection. I don't know which side of that pump station they're proposing that path to go on. I imagine it's on the outside. And the person that lives on that corner, who's also up next to speak, would appreciate a little privacy. Right now, she's getting a lot of canyon dwellers that go through that unpaved path and wind up in her backyard. It would be nice to get a retaining wall up there, but whether or not that's the developer's responsibility or the city's responsibility, it seems to me as though the city is making the requirement of having this interconnected paths between the parks, which is a noble idea, but I think it needs to be more carefully thought out in this particular area, where, as was pointed out, there are no sidewalks. So to dump a connecting path directly onto a street doesn't seem as well advised as I would think.
Thank you, William. Okay, and I have one more speaker, Carrie Clark.
And then I think there's some online.
Oh, there, okay. Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Carrie Clark, and I live in Oregon City. I live on that last house on the right, that the path is going to be determined where it's coming through. I have problems with homeless people already that come through my yard 4 or 5 in the morning. And without that retaining wall on behind our houses on the backside, they tore a bunch of debris and they took all the trees out and everything. And there is nobody to watch that. I understand our police officers are awful busy, but every time somebody calls, they can't come out. I mean, this happens all hours of the night. There's no lighting there on the path, so that's a really main concern. I have a dog and she barks continually, and it's like, I didn't know somebody's out there, but unless they come through my backyard, and I have my gates locked, they hop the fence. So I don't know about that path, about how it's gonna hinder or help me. I'm not quite sure, but it's a pretty big concern of mine. And like, we don't have sidewalks, and it's pretty, well, it's an end in the street, so it's pretty calm most time, but we have everybody wanting to walk the path, and it's going to be summer, or be nicer, there's going to be more foot traffic back there. So, and I'm not saying that homeless people are bad people, they just, they leave their garbage and everything everywhere, and it's not getting picked up, it's not, where do you put it? I can't afford to pay for their stuff. It just looks terrible, it looks bad, so that's all I got.
Thank you very much. That is all of the testimony that I have this evening.
There are 2 people online.
There's 2 people? Okay, very good.
We have Gary Shepherd and first up.
Okay, Gary Shepherd. Thanks, Christina.
Good evening, everybody. First off, I want to thank city staff for the presentation, well-organized presentation this evening, and I want to apologize to Mr. Hathaway. Greg, I did not know you were involved in this application process. I would have certainly reached out to you. We spoke. I did not get notified of the application until about Tuesday afternoon when one of my staff members were visiting their site through our access easement and noticed a notice indicating this hearing. So my involvement's been late. Just want to apologize to staff for that lateness and to applicant and Mr. Hathaway for their need to continue the hearing today. But Greg, I look forward to your phone call. We'll certainly go over some things that you have concerns with, and hopefully we'll be able to hash it out for the city here today. I've heard some testimony from the neighbors this evening, and they share similar concerns that Metro has with the master plan path, about its attractive nuisance nature, its safety nature. We, Metro, the neighbors, the Walmart property, Mr. Younger, we've all been having to sort of deal with the ridge top and the desire of people to make their way down the hillside. It's an ongoing situation. And I think what you're hearing tonight is people asking for well thought out designs, designs that don't create problems, designs that are more solution oriented, and that actually represent a public benefit. The city will be taking ownership and possession of any pathway, is my understanding, whether it's through an easement or whatever. But I think, now is the time to have these discussions. Now is the time to sort of make those decisions so the applicant, the developer, can begin the process of creating a big benefit for Oregon City here. We're generally supportive of the effort. There's just a few things as a rather large neighbor right next door to the applicant that will have some impacts on Metro that we want to make sure that our public asset is recognized and a part of the discussion. Today, since we have not been a part of any discussion as of yet, I look forward to having those conversations with Greg. I've heard some conversations today about an easement in the northwest corner and how that is a no-build easement or has some height restrictions on it. So I see an easement up in the northwest corner being respected, but I see an easement that we have and need for access to our property that we utilize for maintenance, for addressing homeless encampment issues, not being respected in the south. So I know that is a primary issue between Metro and the property owner, Mr. Younger. However, this development does create some conditions that adversely affect those easement rights. And I'm not sure if sending developments on the way that are creating that friction is a good idea. There are a couple provisions of city code that I believe are applicable that require people to have discussions before decisions are made, and we just want to have those discussions take place. The only other issue of concern was stormwater. One of the commissioners this evening spoke about stormwater and stormwater protections. We have a hillside. We have an area that is subject to significant slumping and landslides. We've seen it. We try and do our best to promote and design developments to prevent that from happening. Obviously, nature's nature. Sometimes things happen that we do our best. We can't check ourselves from it. But in this design process, I think we have to make those considerations. One of the standards when developing adjacent to or within a geological hazard area is to do your best to propose something that is the least impactful. That's a discretionary standard the city has in its review. I think that does give the city some authority to direct what's in the best interest of the city, what's in the best interest of what it views as is important, what it views as is protected. But that stormwater outfall, I'm not sure where it is. I don't know where it is. I didn't see it in the application where it was. I'll use the next 2 weeks to figure that out. But our concern would be dumping stormwater. I heard comments today that city respects the basin approach. I support the city staff. I support city engineering, respect their work. I just have to learn a little bit more about where that stormwater outfall is and how the water is getting to our property. Make sure that it's ready for it. This will be taking water from an area that's up north and dropping it down to an area to the south where it didn't receive that water previously. I want to make sure that if it's our property that it's ready for it and it won't cause adverse conditions. So just a few things that I got to learn a little bit more about. Hope to have good conversations with Mr. Hathaway and his team, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
All right, and our final public comment this evening is Michael Ard.
Michael Ard, right. Michael?
Thank you. Is there a way that I can share my screen? Is that set up?
Yes, 1 second.
I'll send a request to do that.
Were you able to accept? Okay.
Hang on just a second. Not sure that it's sharing the correct screen, but I think it gave me the ability to. Okay. So are you seeing the map now?
Not quite, I think it's low. No, we do see it now.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you. I wanted to share a few things regarding my review of the traffic impact study. The reason that I had some concerns.
Real quickly, can you state your name for the record?
Oh, yes, sorry. Mike Ard. I am a professional transportation engineer with Ard Engineering, and I reviewed the application. I was interested in seeing what the application had to say about the intersection of Warner Milne Road at Lynn Avenue in particular, because I know it's in close proximity and that's an intersection that's been subject to some significant discussion historically within the city. And I was surprised to see only 15 p.m. peak hour trips, or about just a little under 8% of the site trips shown headed that direction. The traffic impact study indicated that 5% of the residential trips would be shared between Warner Milne Road and the street name's not showing up, but it's this blue one that's highlighted here. Holmes, I think it is, something like that. And then 10% each of the commercial trips on each of those roads. And what I wanted to show is why I find that likely to be incorrect. So if trips are headed to locations that are on Telford Road or going down the hill via Center Street, it's about the same travel time and distance to take Warner Milne Road versus the alternative to the north. And so that's kind of a dividing line where things that are to the north side of Telford Road generally would not attract significant trips from Warner Milne, and things to the south would. Boy, I kind of blocked off my tabs here, so I need to just resize this real quick so that you can see. Looking at other destinations, though, you can see anything that's on Warner Parrott Road, anything that's on South End Road before you go down the hill is most conveniently accessed via Warner Milne Road. Anything that's on South End Road to the south is also best route is via Warner Milne and through that intersection. If you're going out Central Point Road, same thing. You go down Warner Milne to Central Point Road. If you're going to Leland Road, the fastest route to get there is again Warner Milne Road. So there's a significant amount of traffic in the city that's going there. If you're headed to Canby, like 5% of the residential trips appear to be showing going to Canby. Again, the fastest route is via South End Road, which again would take Warner Milne Road. Based on all that information, I drew a little area and I put this into my comments via email that shows the basin within the city of Oregon City that is served by Warner Milne Road with respect to this project site. So this was all for trips that have an origin at the site. And it's a very significant portion of the city. Even if we assume that all of the distribution assumptions that the applicant made in their traffic study were correct, but then corrected the routing to reflect the fastest and shortest travel paths, it would be a very significant change to the trip distribution model, and there would certainly be more than 20 trips that pass through that intersection of Lynn, Leland, and Warner Milne Road. So I do feel like the obligation based on the city standards would be to analyze that intersection and provide some information about it. I did have some comments as well about trip generation, the fact that a fast food restaurant with side-by-side drive-through lanes is covered in the new 12th edition trip generation manual and has trip rates that are about 85% higher than for a standard fast food restaurant. I think that that's largely going to be offset, if I heard correctly tonight, by the fact that there is not a grocery on the site. The overall trip generation I expect to be relatively similar because there's a reduction on the one side of the road and an increase on the other. But that does mean that your queues will change based on the higher volume that's going to the south side of the road to that new restaurant. So it might be something that the applicant wants to look at.
You have that all summarized in your written testimony, is that correct, Michael? Because
I have most of that summarized. I didn't have the shots of how I came up with the service basin. I did say something in my written testimony as well about the crash data and concerns about 213 and Beaver Creek, and that's about it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So now we are at the point where we want to entertain motions on both of these items, right?
Yes, but I might, because we may be in a compressed time frame. I think Commissioner LaSalle raised that. If the commissioners have any questions or have any initial feedback, I think it would be really helpful for purposes of everyone in this room to hear that feedback. I know Chair Espy, you made a couple of comments about signage and light trespass and pedestrian paths on Molalla, but if
that's pretty much all I have.
That's the kind of feedback that I think it would be helpful for us to get, because I think that on the 13th, we're going to be in decision-making mode.
Correct, yeah.
And I mean, we're going to have to move this along. And so I'm not asking you all to make a decision or to tell me whether you would vote for it, yes or no. What I'm asking for is if you have additional feedback where you'd like to see some additional information, you have additional questions that you'd like the applicant to respond to, if you think that the path, needs to be more integrated as staff has recommended, or if you think that it's better, if you have a better idea or another idea that you would like the applicant to explore, now would be the time, because like I said, I just don't know that we're gonna have time on April 13th, the continued hearing. If you don't want to, that's okay too, but I just want to throw that out.
So I think design-wise, my main question would be why they want to have more parking spaces, but I'll entertain more questions from the commission. Commissioner LaSalle.
Would it be permissible, if we have any further questions or concerns, to email those to the planning department for sharing with all the rest of the commissioners?
No, we need to have it happen in the public meeting if we can, so that everyone hears it all at one time. We don't want to create a serial meeting by having those discussions.
Right.
That's why I asked the question.
Commissioner Wallace?
I would like to also have it entertained. The neighbors have made a comment about having kind of like, because I recall I've gone to Wendy's and they have a cement wall behind their area, their parking lot, and the neighbors brought up concerns about safety. And, in a way, this development's going to fill in some good space, obviously, of foot traffic that hasn't been so good in that area, right? That has been bugging the neighbors, but at the same time, it could bring foot traffic. So solutions on what type of that walking path to the neighborhood, like possibly entertain a solution for those neighbors too, as, look at that, because the neighbors have brought up some concerns about that. So, and at the city's perspective as well.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Garma.
Yeah, so to add on to that, I'm actually wondering if the lighting and shared use path might help with some of the concerns, and the increased foot traffic might help address some of these concerns in terms of having more people there might actually make the situation better versus worse, especially having a lit path there that the neighbors aren't having to pay the electricity bill for, and the city is. But I think there's a lot of interesting discussion happening about the shared path in terms of whether or not the applicant even necessarily wants to provide it or not, as well as the requirements from the city and the neighbors. I think the rest of the plan overall looks solid. So it's really just trying to address those concerns that the applicant, the neighborhood has, and some of the commissioners have shared as well.
Yep, and finally, I see a lot of pavement out there, and I'm just hoping that landscape, I see some islands, which is good, but hopefully there's adequate trees and landscaping. We're always have an aversion to acres and acres of bark dust with just, little knickknacks, throughout the landscape with some arborvitae somewhere, interspersed. We would like to see something a little bit better than that. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. I think now we can go ahead and entertain a motion to continue item A, GLUA 25-00025, CU 25-4001, MAS 25-4001, Park 25-4001, 1367 Molalla Avenue. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion.
And that is to continue, and we need to have a date certain for that, right?
April 13th.
So that would be
Turn on
April
your-
13th?
Sorry, the April 13th Planning Commission meeting.
Okay,
7 p.m.
very good.
Do we need to have an additional meeting that would be not our normal schedule to accommodate this, or no?
What else do we have planned on the 13th? Don't we have,
It would be
So,
the Park Place.
right, so that's a big one.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think I would want to move this any further down the road, given the timeline.
I was thinking
So I
April
think we
6th.
gotta- Or yeah, if it's sooner, if you guys can do that, but
April 6th would be 2 weeks.
yeah.
So if I can, just do a quick interruption, we do have quite a few applications on the April 13th. There is some flux in the Park Place application that may or may not have it occur on that April 13th date. But I would recommend that we would still move forward with the April 13th date for this hearing.
Okay.
And if we need to accommodate and move some things around, we could think about doing that, but I think that we should be able to accommodate it.
Okay, motion to continue this item to April 13th. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamont,
Aye.
and Chair Espy.
Aye. Item B, GLUI 2500025, MAS 25040 and a 2, GEO 25400 and a 7, NROD 25300 and a 12, 1367 Molalla Avenue. Do we have a motion to continue this item as well to April 13th?
Yeah, I move to continue April 13th.
A second.
Very good. Call for the vote.
Call the roll.
Call the roll. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Guymont.
Aye.
And Chair
Aye.
Espy.
And
Okay,
if possible,
and,
I recommend maybe a 5-minute
Yeah,
recess.
that's what I was going to ask. Yep, okay.
Nobody loves
this one?
I think
Are you
all the
guys
people,
good?
I think all the people were here and heard the
We're good?
first one, but you will need
You don't want
to.
to hear that, do you?
We were here for the applicant.
Yeah.
You want to,
You don't wanna hear that.
you do want to poll each other. You want to poll your fellow commissioners to ensure no ex parte contacts,
Okay,
conflicts
that
of
sounds
interest
good.
or bias.
All right, well, let me introduce the item and then we'll do that. Okay, so this is GLUA 2500058, CU 2504003, SP 250014814, 625 Holcomb Boulevard. This is a conditional use review for a public educational facility in a residential zone with a concurrent site plan and design review for a 4,518 square foot cafeteria, kitchen addition, much needed, miscellaneous site improvements. So let me poll the commissioners and find out if you have any conflicts or bias with the school district. If you've been to the site, what did you see? What happened? Commissioner Laws, sorry.
I have been part of Jennings Lodge PTA, and I used to volunteer at Holcomb, and I was friends with the ex-PTA person and been on budget committees in the past, back in the 2010s. And then overall, I went to the school district budget committee meetings years ago, but nothing recent, so.
Commissioner LaSalle.
I have no bias, no conflict of interest. I live within blocks of the school.
And Commissioner Gottmalt.
No bias, no ex parte, haven't been to the site, don't have any kids.
My wife used to work at the library there, but I don't have any conflicts or bias. It's been quite some time since she has been there. So, yeah, and I've been up to the site probably about a couple years ago, and that's it for me.
But no other bias or conflicts of interest, by the way. So.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Sorry, no other bias or conflicts of interest. My mic wasn't on.
Okay. Can we have the staff presentation?
Okay. I am Melissa Lopez, the assistant planner here. We are here to discuss, as you noted, the Holcomb Elementary School expansion, which is a conditional use review at 14625 Holcomb Boulevard. Holcomb Elementary School was originally constructed in 1966 with the approval of Clackamas County. This was prior to the annexation of Park Place neighborhood in 1989. Many aspects of the site, of the existing site, are considered lawfully nonconforming. The site is zoned R10 low-density residential, and where a public educational facility is a conditional use within this zone. Due to the current proposed addition, this use has been called into review. So the reviews that are required is a site plan and design review, along with the conditional use review. Basically, for the site plan and design review, they're proposing the new 4,518 square foot cafeteria addition, a parking lot expansion with 7 new parking spaces, parking lot resurfacing, relocation of a trash enclosure, new pathways, and other miscellaneous site improvements. Lawful non-conforming upgrades, mainly to the parking lot, will be proposed by the applicant as part of a separate review. The conditional use review, basically the proposed addition exceeds the 1,000 square foot threshold for the minor expansion. And that's why we're here today, to review for conditional use. This next slide just shows the street view, a 2025 street view. In the corner here, you can barely see it now. The highlighted portion is where the new cafeteria is going to be located. Here on this slide, you're going to see the elevations, and there's some arrows just kind of pointing to which elevation is going to be to which location on the building. So you'll see where the northeast links up the southeast and the southwest portion. This slide just lists the conditional use approval criteria. I'm not going to read this whole slide, but basically it's asking if the conditional use is allowed in the underlying district, talking about the characteristics of the site, compliance with 1612, that it's not going to alter the character of the surrounding area, and then it satisfies the goals and policies of the city comprehensive plan. And then there's a specific call out for schools as a conditional use. The next slide is a summary of the staff's findings. Basically, Holcomb Elementary School is within the R10 zoning district where public educational facilities are an allowable conditional use. The site expands across 13.04 acres where the shape, location, and topography are suitable for the proposed expansion while maintaining adequate access. The surrounding area is predominantly residential, which promotes walkability for school-aged children and accessibility with different modes of transportation. And schools provide a necessary service to the public while also providing jobs, which meets OC 2040's Diverse Economy Goal 1. There were no conditions based on the conditional use review. However, when the agenda went out, there was some discussion with the applicant for some clarity of these conditions that are related to the site plan and design review. So you can see condition 12, condition 15, and condition 21 have all been revised for clarity. And we're kind of going into the options where you can either approve the proposal with the conditions, which is what staff is recommending, approve the proposal with modified conditions and provide any revised findings, or do not approve the proposal and provide direction to staff. And if you have any questions for me at this time, that would be.
Thank you very much. Are there questions of staff? I just have one. Was there a previous conditional use permit on this site?
It was approved via Clackamas County. And since it's been annexed, it has not gone through a conditional use review. It had a review back in 2020 for a minor site plan and design review, which didn't call into, there was no expansion over 1,000 square feet, so it didn't need to have the additional conditional use review at that time.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion?
We need your.
Oh, yes, let's hear for the.
I'm sorry. We can make this quick. Hello, my name is Mercedes Sarah. I'm with 3J Consulting. My city of residence is Milwaukee, Oregon, and I'm here representing the district this evening. Melissa gave a great presentation, so I'll just add a little bit to that. I'm here to discuss Holcomb Elementary School and the planned expansion to add a new cafeteria and kitchen to the school building in the southeast corner. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the school was built in 1966 in Clackamas County. It has a current enrollment of 543 students with a maximum capacity of 564 students. It is in the R10 zone and 13.04 acre campus. The main school building is just over 52,000 square feet, and it is accessed from Holcomb School Road, which is local. Next slide. As part of the proposed improvements, there is the cafeteria there in the southwest corner, as well as a trash enclosure, which will be adjacent to that cafeteria to provide easy access for the kitchen. New storm improvements along the east side of the school, where new pathways will connect from the cafeteria over to the play area. New soft play area and new hardscape play areas, well, new painting on the hardscape play and new soft play areas are proposed. And then just a point of clarification, the parking lot is being resurfaced only in the area near the cafeteria. In the other area is being resealed and restriped.
There are currently 65 parking stalls, and the restriping to meet the city's current parking standards will mean that there will be 77 parking stalls total for the site, not added. Just want to make sure that's clear. And that's just meeting the city's width standards and depth standards for parking. Next slide.
Can I just ask a real quick question?
Sure.
What's a soft play area versus a hard play area?
I believe it is not an impervious surface. It is like chip area with play equipment.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah. The new cafeteria will accommodate more students in the per lunch period. The current cafeteria is fairly constrained. The new trash enclosure, again mentioned, is there adjacent to the kitchen area, and there's a new outdoor eating area just adjacent to the cafeteria to the north there. Next slide. Here are the elevations. The glazing is primarily focused where the cafeteria is, and then the area where the kitchen is has some upper glazing added just to provide natural light in where the kitchen equipment is. Next slide. The materials will be complementary to the existing school, a combination of ground face block, metal panel siding, and flashing, cement board siding as well, and the color palette is shown there. And then there'll be 2 new storm swales, low impact swales on the site, one near the new pathway and one in the parking lot to help treat the new impervious area that's created by the proposed project. Next slide. So in summary, we request approval of the land use application for the proposed expansion. We agree with staff's findings and the suggested condition changes to 12, 15, and 21 as presented in staff's report. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I think we can entertain a motion now, right?
You could close the public record.
Okay, we'll close the public record, right. And
Do we need to ask for public comment?
I haven't gotten any speaker slips, and
Oh,
so
good point. Is there anybody online?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Everybody likes schools.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve GLU 25-00058, CU 25-00003, SP 25-00148.
You guys have to show
Conditional use for the Holcomb School addition of a cafeteria.
I second.
Call the roll.
Aye.
Commissioner LaSalle.
Aye.
Commissioner Guymont.
Aye.
And Chair Espy.
Aye. Any communications?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple. Our wonderful administrative assistant has emailed the commission to try to identify best paths forward to hear from you all about getting a quorum for each meeting. So we've received about half of the comments, so it would be great if everybody could respond to that, either via the survey, that's the right word, or just email her directly. That would be fantastic. As we did kind of indicate, we are going to have a bit of a heavy meeting at the next meeting, but we will keep you abreast if there's anything that needs to change associated with that. We also do have agenda items scheduled for every meeting through the first meeting of May, and specifically on the May 11th meeting, we do currently have our wonderful legal team planning to do a presentation on sort of the end of what has occurred in the short session for the state legislature,
Regarding
and specifically
ethics.
provide a readout for House Bill 4037, which was the main bill that does affect the land use planning system as of late. So full dockets for the next couple of weeks, and an interesting one in May. So that concludes any comments I have.
Okay, and that includes, because I think there's a that includes a bunch of stuff about how boards and commissions are supposed to behave and how they talk to each other these days and
So
how
there are.
they interact with.
There were a number of bills that were passed regarding the boards and commissions. There's 3.
Yeah.
One of them was regarding food and availability of serving food as a benefit of being on the board. Another one was clarifications about what a serial meeting is. And then the third one was for the Oregon Government and Ethics Commission, requiring that a local government representative be on it. So there's quite a bit of changes that occurred in terms of meeting makeup and laws this short session. So we can definitely make sure that there's a readout provided on that as well.
All right. Okay, cool. Okay.
Second.